everybody's paying a very hefty price. We need to look forward. We have a common enemy that is escalating in its repression against anything that has any sort of revolution kind of taste or smell or whatever to it. So I hope that answers both of your questions. Sorry I answered it for you. So
It's okay. Yeah. I have one comment about the apology. You mentioned that we participated in the coup. We did not participate in the coup. Bluntly and straightforward, we did not participate in the coup. We participated in Tamarud, and this was the rebel movement. And the goals of the rebel movement was, if you remember them, was not ousting the president, Morsi at that time. It was انتخابات رئاسية مبكرة. It was an early election. It was دستور, which was the constitution, because Morsi has stopped working with the constitution. So these were the two main goals. We went out on the 30th of June, and then when we realized that the army was involved and intelligence was involved, we retracted and we sent a statement. We published a statement about that. And then on the 3rd of July, after 3 days, when we realized, when it was a plain, straightforward coup, then we also published a statement. You can go to our web pages or Facebook pages or Google the statements for 6th of April with that date, and you will find it. So we have never backed the coup. If we have backed the coup, Ahmed Maher, Muhammad Adil, and Amr Ali, and the rest of our prisoners, Ismail, Shahata, Imam, all those guys would have not been in jail. I would not have had 10 of my colleagues getting life sentence in jail if we were backing the regime. We would be out and happy and, with positions in the government or whatever, privileges, but the founders of my movement are in jail. 3 of the founders are in jail. 10 have life sentences. We have one guy who was a student, he got 10 years in prison. I have one of my colleagues getting 3 years in a military tribune. There were military tribunes, by the way, that were conducted to some of my colleagues. So if we had backed the coup, we would not be in that situation. I wouldn't be even here.
Thank you. So there's a question over here. We got the mic. And then we'll go on.
Thanks. My name's Hilary Wise. I'm an academic, a British academic. The panel asked for support from people in this country. Could you be perhaps a bit more specific? Is there, for example, a UK-based organisation which really focuses on the prisoners? And I imagine there'll be a big demonstration when Sisi comes, but are there, for example, regular vigils demonstrations in front of the Egyptian embassy?
I'm not from the UK.
Would you like to take this one, Mahal?
I think there are many ways in which ordinary citizens can show their disapproval of UK policy towards Egypt and the embracing of Sisi. One is through writing to their MPs and ensuring that their voice is heard and questioning why there is support for such a regime and why Sisi is being invited to this country. There is going to be a major protest against him when he comes. The details of that will be out on social media and through all possible channels. It may happen at 10 Downing Street, it may happen elsewhere. There are regular protests. There was one last week. It happens either in Trafalgar Square, at the embassy, or at 10 Downing Street. Again, there are ways of finding out about that, and I can again tell you how often these are advertised again through social media. There are many Egyptian groups that are working on the ground here, most notably Egyptians for Democracy and the Egyptian Revolutionary Council, which works here on the ground in the UK. And through them, much of the activities take place. So we are very active. We engage with policymakers. We want support of British citizens, UK citizens, in lobbying with us. And we also are active on the ground, engaging with NGOs. Amnesty, of course, is a major group. There is, of course, Reprieve that is concerned with the executions, and Human Rights Watch. They are all very aware, and their reports on Egypt have been outstanding. I mean, reading their reports on Egypt and the human rights violations, I think says it all better than anything we could have even said on this panel. It reflects the extent of the violations from independent and respected sources. Thank you.
And I should say that if anybody does want to get in touch after this, I will give our email out and we can put you in contact and give you some ideas of actions that can be taken. Thank you. I know there's a question up here and then two over here, so perhaps go up to the top. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good evening. It is an honor to have Sultan here with us. It is an honor. Thank you so much to talk to us all your horrific experiences, but also as an example of success when organizations and people with good conscience and people with humanity get together, we can make things happen. But also, I would like to ask you, if someone wants to help me, we have International Criminal Court, we have the United Nations, we have other big organizations who are supposed to represent the people who are suffering, is vulnerable. Then I would like to ask you, how can we put pressure on the United Nations, on the International Criminal Court and European Union to really act, not to talk, to act? Who is controlling these countries who don't respect human rights at all? And there are many, and many people are suffering. We cannot give them a blank card to do wherever they want with these citizens. Has to be a law, or there is no law in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The honor is mine. In terms of, I guess, engaging and talking about, the United Nations and the International Criminal Court and all of this, I think we need to set, because of where we are, so kind of realizing where we are or where we need to get to. Knowing full well that one day justice is going to prevail, okay? Knowing full well, having no doubt that justice will prevail, not just in Egypt, but everywhere where there's injustice. But keeping that in mind, we need to know that it's a long road. That it's not just going to happen overnight. That it's going to take, I'm just one person. I'm one out of tens of thousands. And I am still, until this day, 4.5 months after my release, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of the efforts that went into my release. That has finally gotten people, decision makers, to say, get Muhammad Sultan out. So it took a lot, and that's just one person. So I think we need to, I guess, bite sizes, so little successes. So like, I play basketball, okay, so I'm just gonna use that analogy. Like, you don't start off like shooting half-court shots, you just don't, right? You go backboard, very, you just try to get your form, try to make it, then you go out little by little. You gain more confidence, you have more success, and you keep doing it, knowing full well you're going to reach that one day. And that's kind of the balance between the really like emotional and passionate kind of, the feelings that we have for the cause of justice, and balancing that with reality. That, right now you're saying, not just action, not talk. Guess what? The Europeans have not been talking. So they're not even doing that. So like, that's where we're at now. Let's get there. Then move a little bit away from the basket and make the next shot until we're able to win the game, because we'll get there. We're going to win the game.
I think one area that perhaps we need to stress is that if we don't act now, if we don't ensure that governments review their policies towards the Egyptian regime, then we are putting ourselves at danger. It isn't just about our values and the upholding of our values. What is happening in Egypt is a crisis. It is a human rights crisis, but it is also a political and economic crisis. What we have in Egypt is a military regime that wants to survive, but is incapable of delivering to its people, either in terms of political participation or economic development. The situation in Egypt is dire in terms of the security situation. What's happened in Sinai, and we haven't talked about the violations there, has involved the razing of homes, the destruction of homes, the displacement of 3,000 families, the destruction and blasting of family homes. The Sisi regime is playing a despicable role in supporting Israel in what it is doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. It has flooded the tunnels with salt water, which has meant that the lands that were fertile, the farmlands that allow sustenance for the families in Gaza are destroyed. It ensures that the livelihood of the Gazans is becoming more and more threatened. The closest ally to Israel today and the best friend of Israel today is General Sisi of Egypt. The issue doesn't just concern the citizens of Egypt. This is a regional problem. This is a crisis for the whole area, and it is one that also will breed violence and extremism. We really need to speak out and to act now to ensure that our voice is heard with democratic governments where we live. Thank you.
Thank you. So there was a question up top, if you've still... Yeah.
Thank you for your talk. It's a real pleasure, and it's actually quite surreal to see you after campaigning for your release for so long, so welcome back. Just a quick kind of comment to reply to a previous question about how we can help. I've recently heard of a campaign called Stop Sisi, and Dr. Maha has mentioned Sisi's visit to the UK, and it's absolutely atrocious. And this campaign is specifically focused on his visit and how we as British citizens can help, and obviously help people that are still languishing, over 40,000 in Egypt's prisons. So that's a campaign to keep in mind, especially for Sisi's visit. But thank you.
Thank you. And 2 questions over here. What group were you from up at the top?
Stop Sisi.
But you were campaigning also as part of...
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I'm actually from Stop Sisi, but...
Good timing.
Okay, I'll tell you a bit more about it in a moment. There was first one question I wanted to ask Mohammed. I'm going to welcome you to the UK like everybody else, to be honest, and welcome you back to freedom. A lot of people that I know have seen some really tough times in Egypt, and I'm sure you've seen some of the worst of them. The thing that I kind of think of a lot is, you were mentioning that some of the police officers that had done some of the horrific things, that one of them you saw at least seemed like he'd seen the reality of what he'd done after he'd done it. Is that something that you saw in general? Because as much as they look at us like sort of maggots that need to be stepped on, I kind of unfortunately look at them in the same way. I mean, I'm not a violent or a negative person, but I just feel like, is there ever hope for those people? Let's say everything became perfect tomorrow. What would we do with these like 1 million plus people who are like part of the military and the internal silencing regime of troopers that are there. What do we do with these people? Did you see any change in the eyes of any of them at some point? That was my first thing. The second part is with the Stop Sisi idea. We're not affiliated to anything political. We're just plain and simple Stop Sisi. It does what it says on the tin, nice and simple. Now, I want to also ask every single person on the panel today, what do you suggest? We need as much help and as many ideas to rally as much people as possible, and also as many ideas to raise as much awareness as possible, because Sisi's coming, and we need to do something about that. Because I'll be damned if he just arrives here and has a few piggy photos with David Cameron and enjoys himself. So, if you guys can suggest anything, give us some ideas. We are not affiliated to anyone. We literally are one thing, Stop Sisi. Anybody who wants to stop him and stop this entire regime, hopefully after he's gone, we'll stop someone else, you know? But let's take it, like you said, one little step at a time until we bring the entire bloody regime to a halt and we bring some freedom, some justice for some of these people. I mean, it doesn't affect us. My daily life is not affected by it. Au contraire, to be honest with you, we couldn't have been more successful in my business pre the revolutions. It messed up our business in Libya, it messed up our business in Yemen, it messed up our business in Egypt, but I couldn't be happier. But I'm not happy at the moment, because those same people that I really wanted it to make a difference to are the most people who have a boot on their throats at the moment. So just two things. Did you see any glimmer of light in the stormtroopers at some point? And secondly, everyone on the panel, please suggest everything you can. We need as much help as possible, because the Easter Bunny's coming.
Thank you.
It's a good hypothetical, because as we said, we're going to get there one day. So a lot of people, I'll take a step back. A lot of people ask me, you don't seem vengeful. You're not obviously, the whole strike and the nonviolent thing is kind of, plays a role in that. Because as I thought about this method of nonviolent resistance, I was taking out that negative energy from that oppression, that reactive negative energy, and I was taking it out. I was resisting oppression, but I was also resisting my ideology, my emotions, changing my ideology into going into a route that I could possibly one day ever harm somebody. So I took it out on myself. So for me, it was a perfect thing, because I was resisting both. So what I think is where that kind of stems from is that, looking at them whatever maggots or whatever you describe them, it's a natural reaction to all of the oppression that we're seeing. We just need to direct that into something positive, something like you're doing with Stop Sisi. You need to take that out, because once we get there, because we already established we're going to get there, we're going to need to re-educate the people, because we're not judging people. People get brainwashed all the time. Nations get brainwashed all the time. Re-educating people, everybody has good and evil, everybody. So re-educating the masses is going to be one of the first things as a revolution that we're going to have to do after all of this brainwashing. So if you're asking what you should do for, to kind of, how you should look at them or whatever, yeah, of course, they're also, some of them are human beings. They're just, made to follow or whatever. So just because they, at this moment, lost their humanity, doesn't mean we should. Because this is what keeps us going, right? This is why we're doing, we're standing up for justice everywhere, not just in Egypt. Our humanity. Being able to stand in solidarity and sympathize. So I think that's very important, and inshallah we'll worry about that when we do get there. I think just focusing just kind of what you're doing, the Stop Sisi campaigns and others, and letting that negative kind of emotion and the negative, it's natural. Oppression, every action has a reaction, so you have oppression, so you're going to have, so taking that and directing it into something positive, and then having, little successes, bite sizes, until you're able to inshallah reach there. So in terms of suggestions, I think for the Stop Sisi campaign, it doesn't need to stop at just him coming. And I think, really engaging with the government. Because not everybody's the same. Government is not all the same. So there's internal kind of, conflicts and all of that stuff. Engaging in governments with the people that could assist, pressuring them, giving them their human stories, day in and day out. Telling them there are a lot of Rab'a victims, there's a lot of other, whether it's Majlis al-Wuzara, Mahmoud, and all of these different events that happen, there are survivors. Those people need to be literally engaging with government officials, with parliaments, letting them know what is happening, and then letting them know, just like what Dr. Meha is hitting on, mashallah, on every amazing point, that we're not just talking about the values and principles that, freedom and democracy and liberty for all. We're saying, hey, this is not sustainable, and this is going to come back and hurt your interests. And the people then are not going to forget. So you need to do something. So I think the engaging, we kind of have this thing that like, oh, I felt that way as an American, and as an Egyptian, I felt abandoned by the international community at some point. Okay, but then again, when we add it, when everybody that has campaigned and has done whatever, they were able to bring about results by engaging, pushing the right buttons, doing and saying the right things. And in that we grow.
Great, thank you. I'm going to hand over.
Okay. For your campaign, from my experience in doing a lot of campaigns for 6th of April, I would suggest that you raise awareness about why you want to stop Sisi. Not everybody knows. Nobody, not even with the Egyptian people, a lot of people are just backing him up because he's the president. Like today in the Uber that we had to come here, the guy was talking to us, he happened to be an Egyptian, and he was backing the president because he was the president. He didn't know much about the atrocities that he did. When we asked him, did you back Morsi was the president? He said, yes, I did. I mean, if I told him, I am the president, he would back me. So a lot of people don't know what they're doing, or because the media has been playing in their brains. A lot of people don't know, the media in Egypt pretty much is backing Sisi. They don't publish what I want to be politically correct. Whatever he's doing with the prisoners, what shit he's doing. So they don't know that, the Egyptian government seems like it's hating its own youth because they did the revolution, so they're retaliating against the youth. They're either, killing them, they're assassinating them, what they call liquidation or tasfiya. They're now rounding them up in prison, shutting them up. People are fearful. So, I would suggest that, Stop Sisi, the hashtag, use it extensively, tweet it. I will, tweet it back, and people will be seeing that hashtag of Stop Sisi a lot.
My card, we'll chat. Yes, there was a question up at the top there, and then we'll come to you. And you up there.
I'm at this meeting because I'm on the email list of Memo, and I joined that list because I support the Palestinians. That's my main interest in the Middle East. I've come along here to try and learn something, and all I've learned is how much that poor man down there has personally suffered, and I've learned how 43,000 other people are still suffering. But I haven't learned who are the opposition. Is it the Muslim Brotherhood? Is it an alliance of all sorts of different peoples? What do they stand for? What do they believe in? Or is it going to be another case? Look at it from an Englishman's point of view, as we look over the Middle East over the last 10 years, of people and countries falling out of the frying pan into the fire. How do we know that you lot aren't the fire that the Egyptian people are going to fall into? And if your propaganda, if you want civil society in Britain to stand up for your cause and against Sisley, the corrupt dictator, as you have it, and you're probably right, you're going to have to explain to the British people not only how bad Sisley's lot are, but how good your lot are. And you haven't explained that at all this evening.
Would you like?
You can start with him.
You start. Well, I'm sure all of our panelists will have something to say here. So,
Okay, thank you first for coming here and trying to learn about the opposition in Egypt and the atrocities that have been committed. I'll let you know the opposition in Egypt is almost everybody who's not backing Sisi, whether that's a Muslim Brotherhood, a 6th of April, just a plain revolutionary person who doesn't like what's going on, who's been oppressed at some point in his life, people who are poor, who can find stuff to feed their family, and also we have the socialists, so we have people from the extreme right to the extreme left in Egypt that are forming the opposition. Currently, we're not in one alliance, unfortunately, but we are working towards one goal, which is bringing down that, coup leader, that dictatorship, the guy whose hands is full of blood, and that's one goal that we're all working towards. We're not in an alliance. Again, this is what I'm saying.
I think as a supporter of the Palestinians, let me repeat that Netanyahu's government and the policies of the Israelis are supported by these dictators in the region, and foremost among them is Sisi. When you say, who are we? We are really an echo of various voices in Egypt, the voices of all those who really can't speak out, and if they dare speak out, end up being detained, tortured, or killed. What we seek is not, and I can speak on behalf of myself, but I'm sure that applies to others on the panel, we seek to establish an accountable political system that is democratic, that is civil, that removes the military from politics, and upholds the most basic of human rights and the rule of law. That is the struggle for rights that people have fought for throughout the region of the Middle East since colonialism. We're still fighting that battle. Now, the citizens of the UK or any other democracy don't have to support us. Our struggle will continue until we achieve our freedom. You're not obliged to support us. But as these rights and these causes actually do reflect a common humanity, then people across the world, I know we will find people across the world who do support us. There is no obligation. Many of us live in comfort in the West, in democracies where there is, to a large extent, respect for our rights. So there is no obligation. Either it is one of values, or yes, of necessity and security and stability. No one is holding a knife over anybody's head. But if we are conscious that we belong to a bigger world and that the issue of rights affects us all, then certainly the cause of Egypt today is one that should be taken up by all those who respect human rights and believe in the freedoms of the people of the region.
Thank you.
All of us, we support you. An injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. And the injustice in Egypt is an injustice to us too.
Here. I'm going to pass over to Mohammed in case he has anything to add.
Just referring back to the great January 25th revolution. Before it became ever about politics and opposition and things that Egyptians honestly had no idea about for 30 plus years in Egypt. Before it was about that, it was about humanity. It was about social justice. It was about the values and principles that Dr. Meha was talking about. The reality is, and I don't want to get into the politics, I'm here to I'm a real life example that survived everything that has happened. that has happened and is continuing to happen in Egypt. The Egyptian people deserve that. It's always been, personally, my own dream, having lived all of my life in the West. So, I'm an American. My entire life I had this dream that one day the Egyptian part of my identity could enjoy the same freedoms and liberties and justice that my American identity did. The Egyptian people deserve that. The Middle East deserves that. Everybody deserves that. So again, out of principle, out of as a human, we should support. And the matter of fact is, there's no reason, support is being offered to the oppressive party here. The British government is supporting Sisi. So and he's oppressing his people. So out of principle, just the same way that it is in Palestine, just the same way that it is in Syria and everywhere in the world where there's injustice. Yes, and just like what I said, just like what she reminded us with the MLK quote, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So if you don't stand up for it now, one day it's going to come back and bite you. So that's what we're doing. And again, the struggle does not end with Egypt. It does not. It's going to take time. Hopefully, there will be an alliance or there will be something. But we're not spreading propaganda for anything other than just sharing the reality of what is happening, that Sisi and his propaganda machines are trying to whitewash all across the world.
Thank you. So we're going to go over here. I know there was a question over here too, so start.
So my name is Shada. My question is to Muhammad Sultan. Thank you very much to all the panel. My question is, how does it feel, or how does it come about that you actually take on a hunger strike? It can't be easy. Obviously, the drinking water, the salty water, everything about it is very, very trying. And how do you commit to it at the beginning? And do you waver? Can you tell us a bit more about that, about how you actually started the hunger strike and how you went into it, if that's okay? I know it must be very touching, but we'd all love to share or understand a bit more about the mentality of one who does it. Thank you so much.
So I started thinking about the hunger strike the moment I got arrested. Okay? But I was arrested with 3 other people. And honestly, in the beginning it was because of basketball and because I was overweight and all of that, I had knee problems. I still do, right knee problems. My left arm was broken. And I was in a sling. And I had to, I had to basically use or just take care of business in a 1-by-1 hole in the ground. So you can only imagine messed up right knee and a broken left arm, trying to whatever. So that's something that I thought about in the beginning, and I was like, okay, I need to stop eating so that I don't use the bathroom as often. But then, when I got transferred, and I actually, one of my journal entries talks about this, it was, there was one time we were in state security prosecutor's office in the holding cell downstairs. And I remember it was kind of one of those defining moments for me. I remembered that telling the guys, it was really late at night, I remember telling them, when are we going home? And then it just hit me. Wow, like that 3.5 feet by 6 feet sleeping space between 20 people in like a 4.5 by 5 meter room that I'm in, that has become home. I wasn't going to allow their reality to creep through my subconscious. I wasn't going to let that happen. So that was in September, early on. So I decided, hey, according to the law, there's 150 days where the prosecutor can renew your detention. So I said, once these 150 days are over, if I'm not out, I have to do something. Honestly, you don't have a lot of options. So for me, that's how kind of the idea kind of started. So then obviously you have to do a lot of prep. So I did a lot of research. I asked for books and for things on malnutrition and all of that. And 3.5 months prior, I started, just in case, kind of planned ahead, just in case that I wasn't out by when the 150 days were over, I was going to do something. So I did my research and I started like weaning out food, basically just cutting it out gradually. So first month, I cut off protein. Second month, I cut off dairy. Third month, I cut off carbs. And then I did for a week and a half, 2 weeks, I did water and dates. And then obviously during that time, I basically, you know, just kind of helped a little bit with, you know, just through visitations and stuff like that. This basically bounce ideas off of the Free Sultan team and what they thought, and kind of just planning in case, you know, okay, you know, if we don't get out, we're going to announce a strike this day, and then we're going to do this and that, kind of the route of, you know, whether we go the legal route, the PR route, media, social media, and then the kind of diplomatic kind of route or whatever. And, you know, they had people kind of assign on that, and my amazing sister, who I owe my life to, you know, spearheaded the efforts for you know, during my whole time in detainment, and, you know, managed it very, very well. So yeah, and then, you know, I got 3 of the guys with me to start. January 26th, we got renewed 45 days. It was the first time I stood before a judge. He heard our story, and then he basically renewed us 45 days. So I decided during my strike, I can't say I was grateful for being obese because it really came in handy. So it said like a do not try at home kind of diet. So, you know, I that came in handy obviously, and then you know, I went to 9 hypoglycemic comas. I got a pulmonary embolism and all of that. Once I was transferred into complete solitary, where there was nobody there, because my dad, when I was with him, he saved my life around 8 times or 9 times by basically like getting when I passed out or whatever, he'd get a hard candy, and he'd obviously tell me, and he'd put it under my lip so that I can get some sugar in my system by the time the guards came. So he saved my life 8 or 9 different times. So then when I moved there, I had gotten word from my sister that kind of like, listen, the kind of diplomatic channels are kind of, you know, might be bringing about results. So it's a good idea, since you don't have anybody there to kind of save you, it's a good idea that you basically go into a partial hunger strike where you're just having drinks. In January, or I think end of December, I went into a partial strike. And the idea was that if the diplomatic efforts were to bring about results, then hey, great, you would have started the hunger breaking process where you're just having liquids. And if not, then your body would have taken a break, basically gained some strength, so that you can re-escalate and cut off the sugary drinks and the nutritious drinks or whatnot. So, and thankfully it brought about results, and I'm here, and I started the hunger breaking process, you know, from January. So.
Thank you.
My name is Abdussalam. I am Egyptian, although I am now a British subject. But I am Egyptian, and I will die as an Egyptian. When I'm really impressed by your idealism and romanticism, and especially by asking us to try and put pressures on the so-called Western democratic bloc to do something to free the Egyptians. Indeed, they have a vested interest, the Americans and the European Union, in keeping Egypt under iron and fire. They have a vested interest, and they have their clans, the Saudis and the Gulf Emirates, financing the military bloc, the military gang now ruling Egypt. They do not care a bit about Egyptian freedom or democracy. I remember the great days 3 or 4 years ago when there was the real Arab Spring, and it was most of all an Egyptian spring. I saw Egyptians coming here, trade unionists, and having secured several victories in Egypt, and one of them saying, now we know what to do to put the government right. We just go to Maidan al-Tahrir. What has the military done? First of all, they closed Maidan al-Tahrir. Now nobody, now the Egyptians are resigned to live in peace and just to earn their bread and butter. And that is the nightmare that is supported by the capitalist bloc of the West.
Does anyone want to comment? Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Okay. Addressing your question, what happened to the people? Why are they not protesting anymore? Why are they not going to Maidan al-Tahrir or whatever place to protest since it's closed? It's not just Maidan al-Tahrir that's closed. They have had 2 laws. One of them was the anti-protest law, which is prohibiting any protest without a prior agreement from the government or the police station, and you have to give them the names of the people in the protest, how many, and what chants they're gonna, or signs they're gonna hold. And this is, of course, is very hard when you're doing a rally. You don't even know who's gonna be in the rally and what people are gonna say in that rally. And that's an unconstitutional law. It's punishable by 3 years in prison, and some people are getting up to 25 years in prison because of it. Although the law says 3 years, they're giving 25 years to people. Some of my group has got life in prison because of that law. And then last month, Sisi has signed a decree that became a law. It's the anti-terror law. That means people who are not even just protesting, it's addressing people who are thinking about what they call as terrorist activity, or people who are publishing things that are against the government or against Sisi. They are being rounded up, put in jail. A lot of people are afraid. They feel threatened. They feel that they will be put in jail if they speak up. So that has curtailed the opposition or the regular Joe in the street to say his word. It's pretty bad. The situation is even grim in Egypt now for the freedom of speech. Nobody is talking. People who talk are either in prison, dead, or tortured, or even worse, their family has been threatened, and friends are threatened, and they are taping conversations. They are looking at your Facebook. They are, recording everything about the opposition. Anybody that they feel that might be a threat, they're recording him, and whenever they have a chance, they just pull the evidence or whatever they call the evidence and pull him up. So a lot of people have been, their passports have been confiscated so that they don't even flee the country. So you have a prisoner in a country. We have almost 90 million people hijacked inside one country by one dictator, backed by the army and backed by the Western hemisphere here, the economies, because they're giving him money, they're okaying him killing the people, torturing, and they're turning a blind eye on that. Thank you.
Which is, I think, all the more reason for us to use our voices here where we can. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to take maybe 2 or 3 more questions from the audience. We'll start over there, lady just to your left. Anybody else have questions so we can line them up and then... Yeah.
I think we've touched on this question for a number of answers, but I am very puzzled that some Egyptians I know living in Egypt seem to feel that Sisi is preferable to a Muslim Brotherhood dictatorship. And that they say he has rescued us from a dictatorship by the Muslim Brotherhood. And I find it very puzzling that they could accept what is happening with this dictatorship. It seems to be the fear of what would have happened under the Muslim Brotherhood. Can anybody explain that to me?
Would you like to?
Okay, for people, the media, the regime has used the media, like in the 60s, like the Nasser era, to brainwash the people. The people are afraid. They are brainwashing them. Okay. They are brainwashing them about like the Muslim Brotherhood era, saying that might have happened, that might have happened. You know, if they have been in power, that might have happened. So the might have happened is the fear of the unknown. So they're using the fear of the unknown to direct the masses against, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Islamic, any Islamists in Egypt, or any revolutionists. Now the revolutionists are put in the same bracket like the Islamists, like the Muslim Brotherhood, like the, you know, whatever they're labeling them now as terrorists. So people are scared of that. They are scared of the unknown. The media has brainwashed the people. I mean, I don't know if you watch some of the Egyptian media or something, but they have brainwashed the people to use certain words and keep on repeating them, like traitors, terrorists, that kind of labeling of the revolutions. Even my group, which is a non-violent movement, they have labeled us as terrorists, and you know, people think we are terrorists or we are, you know, violent. We are not violent. I mean, for God's sake, we're a non-violent movement. So the media keeps on repeating the words on and on and on and on, and people just believe the media because this is the only outlet. Not everybody in Egypt is educated. Our illiteracy level is at 60% illiterate people. So these people get their information not from reading, Google, Facebook, whatever. They get their information from the TV, from the TV personas, from the actress, from the famous people that they follow and they like and they take as role model. If my role model keeps on saying one word, guess what? I'm gonna be repeating it, and you know, it's gonna affect me subconsciously, and I will eventually believe in it. Keep talking about one topic everywhere, and you will be affected with it. So that's why people have changed. People have accepted seeing the bloodshed, and they are cheering for the killing and for the blood now. I mean, it's against human nature to accept the color of blood and look at the people dead with bullets in their heads, and they're like, cool. You know, they don't even, it doesn't even make them shrug or anything. It's just like, oh, cool. You know, keep killing more. When their favorite TV persona or TV anchor goes on TV and says, it's cool to kill people, you know, let's kill all the Muslim Brotherhoods, let's kill all the 6th April people, let's kill all the opposition. Subconsciously, because he's hearing that word on and on and on and every day, it sticks to his mind. It becomes a principle, unfortunately. People are losing their humanity in Egypt, plus the fear of being followed or killed or being in prison makes them, whether willingly or unwillingly, change their brain. That's my, you know, my explanation of what has happened and why people are accepting it. I cannot understand why there are women backing El-Sisi when they know that he has conducted and he was responsible for virginity tests for the girls that were protesting in Tahrir in 2011. I mean, I can't digest that part. I can't digest the part where you as a woman, or like not you, but a woman would be okay with other women being in prison, raped and tortured, and they're cool about that. I mean, for God's sake, you're a woman like her. You will be next. If we shut up about one thing, then guess what? You will be next. It's gonna get you. So that's what's happening.
Thank you.
في قلب لندن، العيادة الخاصة الأولى كلينيكا بأحدث التجهيزات الطبية وطاقم متخصص يتحدث العربية. كلينيكا، طبيبك حيثما تريد ووقت ما تريد. للفحص والاستشارات التخصصية والعمليات اتصل بنا على الهاتف أو عبر البريد الإلكتروني أو قم بزيارتنا بدون موعد في أجوال رود في لندن.
لأن كل ما ننتجه طبيعي 100%، ولأننا لا نستخدم المركبات الكيميائية في منتجاتنا، فكل من استخدم منتجاتنا أكد لنا فاعلية أدويتنا العشبية الطبيعية. منتجاتنا مجازة طبياً ومصرح باستخدامها من جميع الجهات المعنية. منتجاتنا استخدمها بأمان. نفخر بشركائنا ووكلائنا حول العالم. تواصل معنا لتكون وكيلاً لنورس. نورس، لقمان الحكيم، صحتكم حياة.
يرتفع التكبير، ينتشر الصدى إلى مدى من مآذن. بالدمع، بارتعاش الأعين، تغسل المساجد صدور المستغفرين، وبين جباههم ينتفض الفجر حين تسبح خاشعة لله. وأنا الأقصى، القبلة الأولى والمسرى، تكحلت عيوني برؤيا رسول الله محمد، وبين ضلوعي تنفس الأنبياء، وسرى دفء أيديهم الممتدة بالنور، يهدي للرشد من بذكر الله تعبد.
أي ذكرى من سناها رقص الكون وتاها وتغنى في فخار. زارني المحبوب طه ليلة الإسراء والمعراج، أكرم بضياها ليلة الإسراء والمعراج، أكرم بضياها.
إلي من طيب مكة تسابق النور، وتهجد وارتعشت جفوني لطيف البيت العتيق، إذ يسبح بحمد الله ويسجد. فكيف أطيق القيد وأنا الحر؟ يكبلني العبيد لولا أني أرتوي من هدي أحمد، وأحتمي بكلام الله فأصمت. أنا العزيز يا رب، والعزة لك ولرسولك وللمؤمنين، والحول والقوة بك يا متين. تضاء بيوت الله بأنوار المصلين، وتبوح قناديلي بحنينها للساجدين. أضمها إلي والقيد يدميني، وحيد ومثلي يشكو الزحام على عتبات عزه، تتسابق إليه الأقدام. اللهم إني بلغت من العمر عتيا، فاجعل العزم مني قويا، ورد كيد الظالمين.
غارق في الوحدة على كثرة إخوتي،
غارق في الوحدة مكبل يا رب،
والشوق في عيوني وخاصرتي تئن مآذني بالتكبير، أنا الأقصى الأسير.
قررت المحكمة إرسال الأوراق إلى فضيلة مفتي الجمهورية لإبداء الرأي الشرعي.
إن شاء الله إحنا ثابتين وصامدين ومكملين.
يحكم بتهم لا أساس لها. إيه هي الجريمة اللي تستوجب هذا الحكم الرهيب؟ هي جريمته إن هو نجح في انتخابات حرة وبقى رئيس جمهورية لمدة 10 أشهر.
جموعة للغضب، جموعة للصمود، جموعة للحرية. يهتفون في كل جمعة: يسقط الاستبداد، تعيش سوريا. يخرجون كل جمعة يشيعون الشهداء المعفرين بالدم والندى، يرقصون في شوارع الموت للحرية، وسيظلون يغنون حتى جمعة القيامة.